But we begin with another life upended by government job cuts.
And now former IRS employee who moved his family halfway across the country to Oklahoma is trying to figure out his next step.
News 4's Spencer Humphrey spoke with him today. And Spencer, he is not mincing words about this, is he?
I know he's not, Kevin. That former employee worked for the IRS here in Oklahoma City for all of about 3 weeks before he got word on Friday that he was fired. While he's not actually angry over what happened to him, he says he has some very real worries about how the country can even continue its basic functions when revenue collectors like him have been deemed unnecessary and undesired.
Graduation, I went to basic.
Public service runs in the blood.
My dad was in the Marines during Korea. My mom was in the Air Force.
So it shouldn't come as a shock that this man, who we're calling John, continued that family tradition.
11 days after high school graduation, I went to basic training.
He served several years as an Army mechanic before being medically discharged in 2004. He and his family settling in the state of Washington, where he spent 2 decades in a civilian career.
I worked in retail. I was a salaried manager at a large retailer.
But he never felt fulfilled.
Since I got out of the military in 2004, it always just seemed like something was missing.
It's why he made a big decision, and this past October moved his family here to Oklahoma. They bought a farm near Chickasha. John got a job with the IRS, commuting more than an hour to Oklahoma City each day.
Took about a $24,000 pay cut in order to take this job. Finally getting accepted into the IRS or into a government job, it felt like almost like I was going back home.
He started on January 27th.
So I was expecting to finish out my retirement there.
His job was making sure businesses actually sent the IRS money they withheld from employees' paychecks rather than keeping it for themselves. He thought things were going great.
I was continually told by my trainer that I was way above where everybody else was.
But last Friday, less than a month on the job,
they went in and was training, and the manager comes to our side of the building.
His manager gave him the news. He was fired on orders from President Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. He got his termination letter in the mail on Monday, telling him it was because of current mission needs.
That blows my mind because the office itself is supposed to have 10 revenue officers. With me there, we had 4. Clearly, it's not a mission need thing. There are hundreds of cases that aren't getting touched in that one office out of 3.
The letter also blamed his firing on poor job performance.
I printed out my performance reviews. It says there is no performance history to display. So we all know why I got terminated. It had nothing to do with performance. It's because somebody decided they don't need a collections agency.
This past week, President Trump and his appointed DOGE leader, billionaire Elon Musk, have celebrated the firings.
We're removing all of the unnecessary, incompetent, and corrupt bureaucrats from the federal workforce. That's what we're doing. We want to make government smaller, more efficient. We want to keep the best people, and we're not going to keep the worst people.
For John, hearing the leader of the free world speak about him and his public service in that way actually doesn't make him angry.
They could be 100% right. I'm not mad at people that voted for this administration. I understand why they did it. I agree that cuts need to happen.
But it does make him worried.
There's a way to do things with integrity. There's a way to do things honestly. And there are processes in place to make sure that stuff gets taken care of that way.
He says with the IRS being gutted, money will slip through the cracks.
I think the loss of revenue is really going to hurt us. The government has to be funded.
He thinks about Oklahoma's members of Congress and what he'd like to ask them.
I'd like them to have a solid plan as to how to protect the Oklahomans.
And thinks about that devotion he made.
I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the country as a whole.
His commitment to a country he hopes can still thrive, even if that country doesn't want him.
It bothers me a lot that now I think we're going in a direction where we're not trying to do things the right way. We're just trying to do things. Being right and being ethical is what really drove me and why I took pride in it.
And something else he says has made things a bit harder on his family as they're trying to figure out how to move forward through all this. Cuts and budget uncertainty at the U.S. Department of Agriculture have delayed the USDA from doling out funds his family had been counting on to start up their farm. He'd been planning to grow crops to give to fresh food to schools and people in need in his community, but now he says he's not even sure when, if ever, he'll ever be able to do that.